It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're beginning the holiday movie season of 2006 by looking at November 3rd with three big new holiday releases. And we've got, of course, your Christmas movies with the Santa Claus 3, and we also have your family fare with Flushed Away. But before we get to those movies, let's get to the biggest new release of the weekend. And there was no new release bigger that weekend than Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat. This film not only became a critical success, but a massive box office success. In fact, when this movie opened up on this weekend, it was only in like a very small number of theaters, and they scaled it back actually because they were afraid of what the controversies that this movie was having was going to have an effect on the film, and it did quite the opposite. The film actually went on to become a massive hit, opening to like $26 million in less than 1,000 theaters, which in 2006 is unheard of. I mean, back in the 80s and the 70s and 80s, that was something that was pretty common, but in 2006, for a movie to open that big in that small amount of theaters, that's incredible. And of course, the following week, it continued to have success, and it went on to become one of the biggest hits of the year. And if you watch the film, it's kind of hard it's not really that hard to see why. The movie stars Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat, another one of his characters taken from the Ali G show. The second movie based off of one of his characters from there, the Ali G in the House being the first one. And in this one, he's a fictional Kazakhstan journalist who travels to the United States to make a documentary which features real-life interactions with Americans. Much of the film features unscripted vignettes of Borat interviewing and interacting with real-life Americans who believe he is a foreigner with little or no understanding to American customs. And as I said before, there was a lot of controversy with the film prior to its release and after its release, when a lot of the people that were involved in the movie spoke out against the film and even sued the creators of the movie because of it. And it was actually denounced by the Kazakh government and banned in all Arab countries, almost all of them. But as I said before, the film was a massive hit financially, critically. It went on to receive several Oscar nominations, including Best Original Best Adapted Screenplay, and Sacha Baron Cohen himself won the Golden Globe for Best Motion Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. And yet this movie has yet to see a regular Blu-ray release. It's been released on DVD, but it has never been released on Blu-ray. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's kind of the same thing with the Jackass movies, where you watch the movie and you see that it clearly will probably not look that good on a regular Blu-ray release, or maybe they're scared to release the film because of the controversy surrounding the film, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense when they released a sequel in 2020, which was about as good as this movie. And this movie is really, really funny. It's a very funny concept. You know, they did a very good job of making this movie feel like it was actually a real person. And because most people that they were interviewing had no idea what the Ali G show was or what this thing was, they did a good job of convincing people that this was a real person when, quite honestly, it really was not. And it just leads to a lot of great, hilarious moments that are so raunchy and so over the top that even the Jackass guys would probably be looking at it and going, why didn't we think about this? Because this is pretty awesome. In a way, it's probably one of the last really funny offensive comedies, because a lot of the comedies we've had since then, very rarely do you get something as crude and raunchy and offensive as something like this. The Jackass movies come close to that, but even the Jackass movies, the people who are really against offensive stuff here have to say that, yeah, this is offending me, but it's pretty damn creative what they're doing in general. Like, this movie, this is one of those last ones I feel like you really could get away with doing whatever you want with a movie like this. And of course, and because with every movie that followed after this, like the movies that he tried to do after this, like Bruno, which was not a big success, and then The Dictator, which was also not a big success in general, the shtick kind of got old pretty quickly, and I think that it came out at the right time to do this kind of stuff, and it's still really funny. It's still really funny nearly 20 years later. It's a movie that I think a lot of people really should give another shot at. If you didn't get it at first, and see it, or if you thought that it was funny back in the day, but it really didn't hold up in any way, shape, or form, but watch it again, because it actually is a lot funnier than I think a lot of people give it credit for. It is still very silly. It's still very ridiculous. It is still incredibly raunchy and offensive for all of the right reasons. It's a funny movie, man. It's a real good time all the way through. I laugh a lot every time I see it. It's a movie that still very much holds up, and one I highly recommend checking out. So, yeah, if you haven't seen it, definitely check out Borat. Or should I say, Borat, Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit the Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan, because that's the full title of the movie. But with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is the third installment of the Santa Claus series, the Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause. Yeah, talking about going out on a whimper. I mean, you know, Shrek Forever After would later do this similar storyline, but really they needed it after Shrek the Third was such a disastrous movie, and we'll get to that one in a little bit, at least when we get to the next summer. But yeah, you ever seen Shrek Forever After? This was Shrek Forever After before Shrek Forever After did it. But in the movie, you have Santa Claus, once again, Scott Calvin, once again played by Tim Allen, who his wife's about to become pregnant, and she wants her, and he wants to bring her mother and father up there, played by Anne Margaret, and also who's the other one? I can't. Who's the father? Who's the father? I don't want to look it up, but I don't want to look it up. I think I have to. Damn it. Alan Arkin, good lord, Alan Arkin plays her father. Like I should have known that, but they have to come up to the North Pole, and Santa Claus has got all these things going on. Got to deal with the parents, got to deal with the fact that they're getting ready to have a baby. They got to get ready for Christmas, and while this is all going on, Jack Frost, played by Martin Short, uses a reverse spell on Santa Claus to basically cause him to lose the title and have Jack become Santa. And yeah, it's a wonderful life because Scott is stressed out because of everything going on. Of course, he's got to get ready for Christmas and all that. And yeah, it's a movie you kind of seen before, a mix of It's a Wonderful Life with the popular franchise. And needless to say, this is definitely the weakest of the three Santa Claus movies. I mean, this is one where the storyline really is just struggling to pull a narrative together because it's a story we've seen done to death so many times before, and I'm telling you, the North Pole keeps looking cheaper and cheaper with these movies in general. Even though you can tell the budget is getting bigger and bigger with them, I've never seen a Santa Claus movie that looks so cheap like this one does. I mean, the first movie looks grand for the small budget that they had, and then the second one, it looks better on paper, but then when you see the world around, when you see it as the film goes on, it's just kind of like, yeah, they're just grasping for straws at this point, but at least that's better compared to what they do here, because, like I said, it feels much cheaper looking than the previous movies do. Now, with all that said, I actually do kind of like this movie. Kind of. It's not a good movie by any means necessary, but unlike something like Home Alone 3, which I just talked about on the Reviewing Network Talks About, it's a threequel that is trying to do something and does have elements that do kind of work. I thought Martin Short as Jack Frost was kind of funny. Martin Short can be a very funny person if you put him in the right role, and yeah, it's an interesting idea to see what would have happened if Scott had not gotten the Santa suit, and what would it be like nowadays. And yeah, stuff like that's pretty fun and all. But other than that, though, like, it goes where you think it's gonna go. It's gonna go down a path you've seen done to death so many times before. And the only other thing I would say that's kind of cool about it is seeing what they could do to put Tim Allen and Martin Short's characters in the parts of the 94 of where the 94 movie is at, and even then, they're really just going the cheapest way possible, because it's not like they're really connecting with scenes that had happened beforehand. I mean, this isn't like Back to the Future Part 2, where you're literally just recreating scenes and having the characters interacting with one another. No, they're just in the background, kind of like a what do you call it? Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, or for you kids out there, The Lion King 1.5, if you will. But I guess I could say this movie isn't bad per se, but it isn't great either. Like I said, it's definitely the weakest of the Santa Claus movies. It's the one that I feel like is being made specifically because of the money, because the last one was such a big success, and of course it's Christmas time, and Disney knows that if they can pretty much make whatever they can and hopefully make a profit off of it, and it made money, but not enough to continue the series as a film series. It did continue on with the Disney Plus series, which I've seen the seasons that they had, and they're all right. They're not great. They're not great. They're not bad. They're just okay for what they are. But as far as this goes, yeah, it's about as weak as you can get. But like I said, it's not a bad movie. It just feels like an unnecessary sequel. And yeah, there are times when there are things about it that could work, but not enough for me to recommend it overall. I mean, if you like the other two movies and want to watch the third one for the holiday season, it's not going to hurt you to do so, but I feel like there's so many better Christmas movie options besides the Santa Claus 3. Just saying. But, so that's the Santa Claus 3. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, which is Flushed Away. You know, a while ago, Studio Ghibli, who is known for making classic animated movies like Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Porco Rosso, Ponyo, they recently just made The Boy and the Heron. They tried to step out of their own bound of what they're known for, and they tried to do a movie in CG called Earwig and the Witch, and everybody can kind of agree that the movie wasn't great. And yeah, I saw it, and yeah, it wasn't a good movie, and it just felt like it was completely out of what we're used to seeing from Studio Ghibli, and it's just like, stick to what you know. I mean, do something that is very much what we come to expect from you. And Aardman Animation did that with this particular movie. You know, they're known for their claymation work, but this was the first time they went in and produced a project mostly in CG animation, and the end result is better, but still very distracting, if you will. The story of this is that you have a pampered fancy rat, played by Hugh Jackman, who's flushed down the toilet in his Kensington apartment by a sewer rat named Sid, and befriends a scavenger, played by Kate Winslet, in order to get back home while evading a sinister toad by Ian McKellen, and his hench rats, played by Bill Nye and Andy Serkis. They're trying to look for this diamond, if you will, and it leads to this adventure overall. It's definitely one of the lesser Aardman movies, but not one of the worst ones in general. I mean, I think the worst one overall was a claymation one they did called Early Man, which was just nothing but an underdog sports movie with cavemen, except it wasn't as funny or as clever as it could have been. And Aardman Animation did eventually go into CG animation again later, about 5 years later, with a far superior movie called Arthur Christmas, which, if you have not seen Arthur Christmas, do it this holiday season, because it is a masterpiece of a film. Probably the last great Christmas classic we've had in a long, long time. But as far as this movie goes, it's good. It's not bad. It's not great. It's good. I think there's a lot about it that does work. I think that style of humor that we expect from Aardman Animation is there. I think the animation is okay, but you could definitely tell it was coming from a studio that really did not have a whole lot of expertise on how to do their style of animation in CG, and it definitely shows in the movie. There are times when the animation does feel very off overall, but hey, they have a lot of good writing. The voice work overall is really good, and yeah, the comedy can be very good too. So with those elements there, that should be enough to save the film, and it does. I just wish that maybe this could have been worked better as a straightforward CG film overall. But like I said, as it is, it's fine for what it is. It's nothing too amazing, nothing too spectacular, but it definitely feels like a film that could have been so much better if they had just gone back to the style that they had been known for. And yeah, like I said, not a bad movie by any means necessary, but definitely a film that could have been probably a really good film if they had just gone back to just doing straightforward stop motion animation like they usually do. But like I said, not a bad movie, but definitely one of their lesser films, Flushed Away. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Now, the next time we meet, we'll take a look at 4 more movies, including maybe the most overlooked Will Ferrell movie of all time, Stranger Than Fiction, a wonderful, wonderful film you probably have never heard of. And if you saw it back in the day, you really were treated to something really great that unfortunately nobody remembers because it underperformed badly at the box office. But we'll talk about that one. We'll also talk about Sarah Michelle Gellar in her second horror film of the season, The Return, which was nowhere near as successful as The Grudge 2, and even then that wasn't successful. But we also have Russell Crowe and Maria Cotillard starring in Ridley Scott's A Good Year, and David Ayer directing Harsh Times with Christian Bale, Freddie Rodriguez, and Ava Longoria. We'll take a look at those 4 movies all on the next episode. That'll be coming up tomorrow. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button because we post every day and you get updates on when new videos come out. Now, with all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.